As Pokemon fans, we've always wondered, can they make a Pokemon game with every region in it? Well, the answer to that could be yes, but not quite what you're thinking. As much as people want a game with every region in it, it's near impossible due to time. Game Freak could never do that with the release schedule of a game every 1 to 2 years, which seems to be a formula they seem to be pretty intent on keeping after doing it for the past almost 30 years. And hang on, my cat wants attention and is scratching at the door. Plus, that would mean they would have to include a national dex again if every region were in it, which is another thing Game Freak seems to want to steer away from, especially if time were an issue. It would just take way too long to develop a game with all regions and Pokemon by current Game Freak standards. Plus, there would be a new question of how to balance levels and the difficulty curve in all regions, how 8 gym battles per region would work. It would be a very daunting task to tackle. But what if I told you that it can still be possible to have a game with every region in it, even with the Game Freak standards? Before I explain myself further, this is not the only type of content I make on this channel. And if you're interested in my other videos, then you can show your support by making sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell for whenever I post. Since this channel is still pretty new at the time of this video, any little bit of support is very much appreciated. Now, back to my theory. With the announcement that Pokemon Legends Z-A will solely be set within Lumiose, they can create a game where there are parts of each region, like certain cities and routes. Now that Game Freak has shown they can make a Pokemon game consisting of only a small part of a region, like Lumiose, we can definitely get a game down the line with every region, or technically parts of every region. For example, let's start with a theme of popular cities, and to add to that, we can add routes that surround those cities so that there are more locations for biodiversity that aren't just all city like ZA. So for example, in Kanto, let's start things off with none other than Pallet Town, which can also serve as a starting town like in its original games. And then from here we can add Route 1. Then for Johto, we could have Equitique and routes 37, 38, and 42. Hoenn can be Slateport City, Route 109, 110, and 134. Sinnoh can be Hearthome City, Route 208, 209, and 212. Unova can be Castelia City, Route 4, and maybe even the Desert Resort. Kalos could be Lumiose again, but since we're already getting a whole game based on it in Legends Z-A, alternatively we could have Shalor City, since it's a notable place for Mega Evolution, and we can also include Route 12 and Reflection Cave. Alola can be Hau'oli City, Route 1, 2, and Melemele Sea. Galar can be Winden and Route 10, and Paldea is a bit tricky since it's all open world, so for example's sake, we can just say Mesa Goza and then a small radius outside of the city. Using this as a general example layout, we can also tackle certain biomes that most Pokemon games tend to include, such as ocean, desert, cave, forest, snow, and mountainous terrain. And yes, I just realized in editing that with the examples I gave, there'd be 2 ghost and 2 electric gym leaders, but this is just an example. Plus, if this were the future, then who knows? Maybe new gym leaders took the place of the old ones over time, and those gyms have different typings. Or they can make this a Legends game where there aren't any traditional gym systems in place. I don't know, this is all theoretical, anything can happen. Anyways, moving on. And alternatively, we could also add certain cities as fast travel spots so that it makes more sense to travel region to region, like Mistralton City, Vermilion City, and as stated earlier, Slateport City, since they're cities with airport runways or ships. Furthermore, they could update the route layout to make it more similar to Legends Arceus, in that they can make the route a big enclosed area that almost seems open world, similar to the 5 areas of Legends Arceus. And even if this concept were to happen in a future game, like in Generation 10 or 11 or further, this concept could easily be applied to those future regions as well. But what about the Pokemon spawns and Pokédex? Well, just how they're altering Lumiose's layout for Pokemon to adapt to different areas of the city, they could easily apply the same concept to the other cities and routes in my example, so that they aren't just the same Pokemon that you can find in the city or route's original game. Side note, do you say route or route? Like, I don't know what the difference is. So, for example, in Route 1 of Kanto, you could only find Rattata and Pidgey, as well as Oddish, Bellsprout, Sentret, and Furret in other iterations of Kanto. But if this Route 1 were to take place in a future version of Kanto, similar to how ZA is the future to X and Y, then naturally, Route 1 would change throughout the years, and that would give us more biodiversity and more Pokemon that have migrated to Kanto. So, similar to how Johto Pokemon like Sentret and Furret have been found in Kanto before, we could have Pokemon from other regions appear too, like, for example, Zigzagoon, Suwaddle, or I don't know, Riolu for example. Plus, if it's just certain cities and routes per region, Game Freak wouldn't need to worry about having a national dex. Since the entire region won't be in the game, that would also mean not every Pokemon in that region's dex needs to be in the game, and thus no national dex is needed. But how would they handle the leveling system? Well, this is an easy way out, but if anyone has other ideas, then definitely bring it up in the comments. But simply, if we were talking about Game Freak standards, they could just do a linear progression over all the regions, just like how Pokemon's been doing it in the franchise. So, for example, Kanto can be the starting region with wild Pokemon and trainer battles being levels 5 through 15, let's say. Then Johto can be 15 through 20, Hoenn can be 20 through 25, etc. And for each region after that, keep scaling it by another 5 or 6 or so levels, so that by the last region, the Elite Four and Champion can be around the 60 range like in most other games. And if you're disappointed by that, I mean, come on, in Scarlet and Violet we just had an open world game where at first everyone thought they'd scale levels with you, but instead they kept each gym leader and major battle at a fixed level. So for a game with every region, Game Freak could easily do this again. So lengthwise, this is how they could make a game that is about the length of a normal Pokemon game, while simultaneously having every region in it. Or alternatively, they could just find a way to make level scale with you from region to region, which is the general consensus I've seen most people want online. But what would the story reason for jumping from region to region be? This might go a bit into fan-gamey territory, but maybe they could have a story where there is a worldwide threat and the protagonist needs to go around every region to stop it while also teaming up with the local gym leaders or Pokemon leagues, similar to how the gym leaders in Black and White help in the fight against Team Plasma. Personally, I've always wanted a Pokemon game where this kind of thing happens. As a kid, I've always wanted a story where Team Rocket returns and creates an unstoppable Mew 3, so every region would have to unite to stop it. I like comparing it to Avengers or Infinity War, where characters from very different worlds come together to stop a common enemy. Will I think it will happen? Probably not. But it's been a long-running dream of mine to see Pokemon do something in a similar vein to this. And I will freak out if they do end up pulling it off somehow. But anyways, if Game Freak hasn't yet thought of this and happens to see this video, probably not, then hopefully this gets some conversation going and Game Freak hears about this, because this sounds like a fun way to implement an all-region game. But if I left something out from this theory that should be addressed, then let me know in the comments, because I put this video together pretty quickly and I just feel like there's so many angles to go about the subject, so there's probably a lot more that I didn't even get to touch upon yet. But anyways, those are my thoughts on a game that can technically have every region in it, and if you enjoyed, then be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell for whenever I upload. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.